Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Usama, and today we are joined by Aleena Taufiq, all the way from Texas, US. She's currently working as a senior data scientist at one of the biggest telecom companies in the world. Other than that, she's also successfully leading a not for profit organization called Geared Up as well, and we'll explore that dimension about her in this upcoming conversation as well. So, with that, let's get started, Aleena. We're very thankful for your presence here, and how had your day been so far?
It's been good. It's been a busy, busy day, but all exciting things.
Excellent. And since it's Canadian Thanksgiving, so I'm thankful that, we got an opportunity to collaborate and that you're here with us. And thank you on that note. And let's get started. So, first of all, Aleena, share your professional journey with us. How had it been so far and how's it going for you?
Yeah, so I am, like you mentioned, I'm Aleena Taufiq. I'm a senior data scientist at Verizon, where I started my career 4 years ago, straight out of college as a college hire.
Mm-hmm.
Since I started working as a data engineer, rotated into a data scientist role, and then
Mm-hmm.
about 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to transition into a senior data science role on the R&D team. So working on a lot of applied research and new future technologies, all of those exciting things I get to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
my role is very exciting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So other than that, you touch base on the data science part. So I maybe want you to throw some light on maybe the strategic importance of this role, because considering that there's a lot of openings for data science, data engineers, and whatnot. So what does this position essentially provide to the company? Like, what kind of problems does it solve for a company, and how does it help them to gain a certain strategic value in their niche?
That is a great question. So, data science at every company could look a little bit different, but for us, data science opens up a lot of opportunities to gain insight into how the business thinks and how customers think as well.
Okay.
So, for example, I could give you an example of how
Mm-hmm.
if you're a customer for a certain company, it doesn't even just have to be Verizon. If you're a customer for any company, a company is going to try to retain you as a customer, right? They're going to want to keep
Right.
you and they're going to want to keep you happy as long and as much
Mm-hmm.
as possible. So, where
Right.
data science comes in is that it comes in and data scientists analyze a whole bunch of data from the customers, and they are able to figure out if the customer is about to leave the company, go to a new company, or whatever that may look like for the company.
Right.
And data scientists are able to, mark and flag different customers who have the potential to churn, potential to leave. And from this information, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually provide different offers specific to different customers to help retain them as your customers in the future,
Right.
which is super important for a company like Verizon, and pretty much any
Uh-huh.
other company. Where this comes in handy
Right.
for the business side
Mm-hmm.
is that data science allows different business teams to become familiar with different insights that they didn't necessarily have before.
Okay.
So you can basically predict different, you know, business indicators before they happen using data of what's happened in the past and looking at things that the company has analyzed in the past as well. So this opens up a whole world of opportunities for businesses to align their strategies to what data scientists are able to model and predict, and it also helps obviously retain customers in different ways as well. So it's a two
Uh-huh.
pronged approach. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So other than that, how do you gain a strong competency as a data scientist slash engineer?
So data science in general is a cross between technology and the business. So it's pretty important. It's very, very important for you to understand technical things, know how to program in Python or R. For me,
Okay.
Python has been most important, and then specific, libraries like NumPy and
Yeah.
scikit-learn, TensorFlow, all of the mainstream libraries and toolkits. But along with
Mm-hmm.
that, you have to understand the business, right? You have to understand what kind of problems the business needs solved. Because if you're just going out and solving, like running a whole bunch of different models without understanding how that could impact the business, you're not going to be very successful at all, because no one's going to want to use your models.
Yeah.
So you have to understand the business. You also have to be able to
Yeah.
communicate and present your findings in a way that normal people can understand, right? If I go up to someone who's never heard of a model before and I talk about it
Yeah.
and they don't understand, it's not going to be very useful, right? So you have to be an excellent
Yeah.
communicator as well. But
Interesting.
those things
Yeah.
are all very learnable qualities, right? They're skills you can pick up
Yeah.
at any time. And I'm an example of that. I didn't have the computer science or the business background coming into work. So it just takes a lot of, being able to learn, being willing
Yeah.
to learn new things.
Excellent. And that's interesting that you've brought that point up. So, in your opinion, when when you're not part of that field, and you're entering it as a, either fresh grad, or, you're just changing careers and coming into data science. So, in your opinion, what are some things that, recruiters or the technical hiring managers would want to see in a potential candidate for data science? Like, for example, were there any, because now that you work in telecommunications, so were there any projects that were specific to that really helped you, accelerate your growth in that domain?
Yeah. So um, my I guess my situation is a little bit unique in that I came in as a college hire, right? When companies are hiring college hires, they're not looking necessarily for a ton of experience in the area, right? They're looking for
Okay.
ability to learn, interest in the area, and demonstratable qualities that would apply to that specific role, right? I actually
Right.
did graduate with degrees in mechanical engineering and math, so I was
Nice.
partially technical and I did have that math background, right? But for someone who
Okay.
doesn't
Yeah.
have that, for someone who is trying to switch from a completely different industry, it is helpful to take a few classes online, get some certifications under your belt,
Okay.
and do some demo projects, get a portfolio going, things like that, things that you can put down on your resume as things that you've learned, as projects that you've completed, even
Right.
if they weren't necessarily for a company in the past.
Right. Right. That's interesting. So, other than that, now that you've spent a considerable amount of time in this niche, were there any myths that got busted for you?
um, yeah, whenever I started, I thought that everyone always knew the answer to everything just off the top of their head. I thought
Yeah.
everyone who worked in the field was an
That's a
expert.
big one for me as well. Yeah.
Clearly, that's not true. Nobody knows everything. You just have to be
Yeah.
willing to learn. Another thing that, was pretty important was that just because you're a new person, just because you're new to the company or to the team or whatever, doesn't mean that you have to sit on the sidelines and wait your turn to speak up, right? If you have an idea, it's
Yeah.
important to share and speak your mind and, all of that right away. That doesn't mean to, just
Yeah.
say things randomly
Yeah.
just because you want to
Yeah.
say something,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So I noticed on LinkedIn that you won the Rising Star Award as well. If it's okay to for me to ask you about it in public, do you want to share some details about it? That looked really cool, though.
Yeah, sure. So, in 2020, I think it was, yeah, 2020, the
Uh huh.
Globant Awards started. So Globant, or
Uh huh.
Globant, I guess is how they pronounce it, is this big company, this worldwide company, and they started these awards called the Women That Build Awards to recognize women from countries all over the world in three categories.
Yeah.
One of them was the Rising Star category. And that one
Right.
recognized a woman who has been working in technology for less than 10 years, who's new and early in their career, who is
Right.
tries to act as a role model for others and,
Mm-hmm.
is essentially all of, like, checks all the boxes off to be their description of a rising star. So
Right.
I won that in 2020, and it was a really
Uh huh.
really exciting time. I won it for the USA and Canada, so it was really exciting because there
Excellent.
were there were
Okay.
nominees.
Nice.
Yeah, there were hundreds of
Yeah.
nominees from
Uh
both
huh.
countries, and There was an intense process where we had to do like we had to make videos about, you know, what we do and what we care about. And there was a judging panel, and it was very exciting to see that, you know, the work that I
Yeah.
do did translate over as, you know, meaningful to
Yeah.
others as well.
Right. That is excellent. And kudos to you for that. So other than that, initially I talked about the nonprofit that you're a part of. So share the story of Geared Up with us. How did it start, and what kind of impact did you create in the society?
Yeah. So Geared Up is a nonprofit organization that brings an engineering enrichment program to middle and high school
Mm-hmm.
students basically across the nation. And I
Okay.
started this actually when I was in college,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea stemmed from my own personal story. So I grew
Okay.
up in Irving, Texas, and Irving, Texas, Irving ISD in Irving is
Mm-hmm.
a low income school district. So we had limited opportunities for different STEM opportunities, different
Mm-hmm.
engineering activities, different enrichment opportunities as a whole. So
Mm-hmm.
I grew up knowing that I loved science and I loved math, but I didn't really know what I could
Mm-hmm.
do with those besides become a doctor. So whenever
Okay.
I went to,
Yeah.
whenever I, got to college, I started off and I quickly realized that I did not want to become a doctor. That was not the life for me. But at that point,
Right.
I didn't know exactly what other opportunities were open, what
Mm-hmm.
other opportunities there were for someone who was interested in science and math. But I
Mm-hmm.
got this flyer for a project within the engineering school to work a project over the course of 7 days to reinvent the Slurpy experience for 7-Eleven. And that
Interesting.
sounded,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounded like the coolest thing in the world, right? It sounded like I was
Yeah.
going to go in, I was going to get to do something cool. I didn't know what that something was, but I was
Right.
also going to potentially get free Slurpees forever, right? That was my goal.
Nice.
I wanted unlimited free
Yeah.
Slurpees for the rest of my life. So I
Right.
signed up, or I applied. I luckily got accepted, and I got to spend 7 days over winter break my freshman year working with 9 engineering students from the different disciplines that my school offered, working to reinvent the different aspects of the Slurpee experience. So this meant that I got to physically rebuild the actual machine, which was kind of
Mm-hmm.
cool. Excuse me. I got to
Yeah.
work on the mechanics of the machine. I got to build,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a physical prototype of a new machine. I got to work with computer
Nice.
scientists on building
Mm-hmm.
out different games and a photo booth to go on the face of the machine. I got to work with electrical engineers and build a notification system
Uh-huh.
for the different cashiers to know when the Slurpee machines are down. I got to do
Excellent.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And by the end of the
Yeah.
week, I was so excited. I was so interested, and I
Yeah.
was hooked on the idea of becoming an engineer. And I changed my major to mechanical engineering, and I didn't look back. It
Yeah.
was one of the best decisions I had ever made. And I realized
Uh-huh.
that other people from where I came from, other people from my high school, didn't necessarily have that opportunity, right? The
Right.
opportunity to go to college, do a really, really cool project, although it didn't
Mm-hmm.
end in free unlimited Slurpees for life.
Yeah.
Uh, doing that
Yeah.
project, finding my
Mm-hmm.
passion, all of that, and presenting to 7-Eleven's board of directors, which was crazy for a freshman in college. No one else had that opportunity. That was a once in
Yeah.
a lifetime thing, right? That was very, very
100%.
special.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to change that, right? I wanted to bring engineering to the students in the different school
Mm-hmm.
districts that didn't necessarily have these opportunities. So
Right.
the idea came about for me to start Geared Up. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought about how to do that. So I kind of took some
Mm-hmm.
pieces from my experience on that project,
Right.
and put together a curriculum for these students. And then
Mm-hmm.
my junior year of college, I launched Geared Up with my first school, which was a all-girls school in Dallas. Dallas ISD is
Okay.
also a low-income school district, but it was an all-girls
Mm-hmm.
school. And that was great because I wanted to focus again on not only, getting kids in general interested in STEM, but also bridging the gap, like the gender
Yeah.
gap in engineering and STEM as well. So it
Of
was really
course. Yeah.
exciting. I started, we
Mm-hmm.
only had like 8 kids show up every week. It was a 6-week program. I brought in guest
Mm-hmm.
speakers. We did design challenges. Um, had different volunteers come in to help, inspire
Yeah.
these different kids. And by the end of it, I didn't really know if I was actually making an impact because it was only 8 kids, right? It was 8 girls. Some of them I thought maybe were forced to be there just because they had no other after school program options. I
Yeah.
didn't know, right? I had no idea. But
Right. Yeah.
on my last day, there was one girl who consistently had been showing up and was consistently interested and excited and trying to win all the design challenges. She came up to me at the
Uh-huh.
end of my last session and she said, Aleena, I want to grow up to become an engineer. I want to go to SMU just like you did, and I want to do
Mm-hmm.
everything that you do. And at that point, I was like, I made a difference in one kid's life, right?
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I
Yeah.
inspired at least one
Yeah.
girl to follow, in my footsteps to go to SMU, become an engineer,
Yeah.
and be part of the change of the gender gap, right? So I was very excited, and
Yeah.
that one moment is what made me realize that this is something I wanted to continue. So
Yeah.
the next year I applied for another grant. I was able to continue it. I spread it to 4 schools across the Dallas area. And then
Mm-hmm.
I realized one of my goals before graduating was that I wanted to take Geared Up nationally. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how it would work. But I
Yeah.
applied for another grant. I got it to take it nationally. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to partner with different military based communities across the country and take Geared
Uh-huh.
Up to these different middle schools and
Yeah.
military communities. So I was
Okay.
able to
Yeah.
spread across 5 different states that one year,
Mm-hmm.
and hundreds and hundreds of students, which was very, very exciting. But again, I was
Mm-hmm.
graduating, um, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after that. If I wanted to just let Geared Up die, I didn't really necessarily want to do
Uh-huh.
that, but I didn't know how to sustain it. So I created more
Right.
curriculum and I handed it off to the different teachers that I worked with so that they could
Mm-hmm.
potentially implement these projects and these lessons during the school year so that I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
have to be there. But then after I graduated, I did go on and continue school and get my master's degree. So I got to work with the legal clinic at SMU to turn Geared Up into an actual nonprofit organization, obtain
Mm-hmm.
501c3 status, and all of that fun stuff, and all the the
Yeah.
copyright of all the materials and all of those things. And then I was able to
Yeah.
build up a board of directors, build up a network of volunteers, partner with different schools and different companies to continue to gain funding, community partnerships, and all of that. So Geared Up is still very much
Right.
alive as a nonprofit, and it's thankfully very
Yeah.
successful as well.
And that is so nice to hear because of various aspects. But the biggest thing for me is that, you were so young, and at the time when you started it, you didn't have those resources. But hey, it's the grit and determination that didn't let you stop. And you pushed for it, and now look at you. You have a full blown success story for us, and that is incredible. And even for our viewers, do something for a sustainable period of time. I would say, don't just give up on the first feeling. I'm sure, Aleena, you would have had a bunch of setbacks as well, but that's the best thing about determination, that you just don't, if you're really passionate about something, you just don't really stop doing it at your first setback. You just maneuver around it and find ways to overcome that adversity. So, Aleena, other than that, considering you have a very demanding full-time job, and then you have a full-blown organization and this venture going on the side. So, how do you manage your work and life together?
It's hard.
Yeah.
um, just frankly speaking, it's hard. There's a lot of things that I need to balance, but thankfully, it's gotten. I mean, when I started this, I was in college, right?
Yeah.
had I was going to school full time and doing, trying to set up Geared Up in general and trying
Mm-hmm.
to, find internships and find a full time
Yeah.
job by the end of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
after, graduating with my bachelor's degrees, I immediately started working in a field that I didn't know anything about, right? Something I was completely new
Right.
to. And at the same
Uh-huh.
time, I was working on getting my master's degree, which I wanted to finish
Yeah.
within one year. And I was
Yeah.
also working on continuing to build Geared Up. So
Yeah.
it's always been,
Yeah.
a lot of different things going on, but I feel like I thrive in chaos. I thrive in,
Yeah.
busyness. If I don't have anything to do, that's
Uh-huh.
a terrible time for me. So I feel like I'm
Of
one of
course.
those
Yeah.
people who feeds off of,
Yeah.
having a million things to do. I
Yeah.
also
Like there has to be something.
Yes, exactly. But I mean,
Yeah.
along with that, like I write down. This is probably silly, but I do write down like a to-do list of all the things I need to accomplish during the week, and I put really small things on there too, just so I can check boxes off and I can feel accomplished as I get, one more
Yeah.
thing done. And that helps with, being
Nice.
able to get the bigger things done as well. Like if there's a grant
Mm-hmm.
application I need to do for Geared Up, it's a big thing, right? But if I
Yeah.
put that I need to finish like typing up
Mm-hmm.
some notes for work or something like that on there as well, and I get that done quickly and I check that off,
Yeah.
it motivates me to go do and tackle the next big thing.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And now this kind of leads me to another point that as the face of your organization or your venture, you would have been doing a lot of pitches, a lot of presentations to different stakeholders, and even the same thing at work as well. So, in your opinion, what are some of the key things I would say that would let someone have a successful keynote? Like, these are typical things. Don't be nervous and do this and do that, whatnot. But in your opinion, if you were to summarize few things for us, that what would let someone become a successful public speaker?
That's a great question.
Thanks.
No, as with anything, confidence is key. You don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to be an expert in whatever it is that you're presenting. You just have to believe in yourself and know that you
Mm.
know enough about what you're talking about to
Right.
be able to successfully speak on it. If someone asks
Hmm.
you a question that you don't know the answer to, that is
Hmm.
100% okay. That's going to happen. Like I mentioned when we at the beginning of our conversation, not no one knows everything, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have to, take the time and go look things back up later, and that translates over to speaking and presentations as well. You don't necessarily have to know
Yeah.
everything, but you do need the confidence in what you are speaking about. Because if you don't believe in what you're talking about, no one else is going to be interested or buy in either, right? And
Right. Makes
that's
yeah.
not just for pitching new ideas. That's for even with like one-on-ones with your manager at work. If you're not confident in what you're
Yeah.
talking about, if you don't believe in what you're doing, your
Hmm.
manager is not going to be that interested in what you're working on either, right?
Makes
And that's
sense.
just
Yeah.
how it is. Yeah.
Interesting. And now, if we are to loop this conversation back to Verizon, do you have any cool traditions at work? I mean, within your team?
uh, not that I can think of. Um, I guess pre-COVID, it was a little bit more, um, a little bit easier to have cool team traditions, right? We would go
Uh huh.
out for team lunches at least once a month. We would have crazy shirt day on Thursdays,
Nice.
which was like an office wide
Yeah.
event, but our team would coordinate, and so sometimes we'd have like matching crazy T-shirts, which was kind of fun.
Uh huh.
Obviously, post COVID, it's a little bit more different. We're obviously working from home,
Yeah.
um, so no real cool traditions that I can think of. We have a teammate that plays the piano and sings "Happy Birthday" on everyone's birthdays, so that's kind of fun. It's
I
kind of
hope they're getting their
embarrassing.
recognition.
Embarrassing
That's
for the
cool.
person
Yeah.
whose birthday it is, but
Yeah.
all good.
True that. So, transitioning this conversation now a little more towards the academic side of things. So, in your opinion, how was your university experience like? And are there any memories that you still cherish the most?
Yeah, everything for me started at my university at SMU, and I mean just in general, like
Mm.
finding like going in not knowing what I wanted to do, finding my passion, being able to pursue it,
Yeah.
building Geared Up, and doing a whole bunch of cool research projects on the side as well. um, I don't know, my university experience I feel like
Yeah.
was very unique in general. I had a lot of, I'm very thankful for this, but I had a lot of opportunities that most people, even at SMU, didn't get. Like I got
Mm-hmm.
to obviously work on the Slurpy project. I was the only freshman.
Yeah.
The rest of them were upperclassmen. Every other engineer was an upperclassman. So that was
Uh-huh.
crazy. And then getting to present to the board of directors at 7-Eleven, just getting that experience my first semester was crazy. The next semester, I
Uh-huh.
got to work with UT Southwestern Medical Center and
Mm-hmm.
build this machine for them to help figure out how to reduce death in like during surgery that doctors and anesthesiologists have for their patients. That was a bad job of explaining what that project was, but it was a very cool
Yeah.
project.
It's kind of
Uh,
hard. Yeah.
but that opportunity, like being the first person to ever be able to be the face of like that partnership between SMU and UT Southwestern Medical Center, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Working with the math department on lymph node and cancer research, I got to do that as well. I was the only undergrad student to be able to do that, which was kind of cool. Um,
Right.
Starting my own nonprofit while I was in
Yeah.
school, pretty cool. I got
Interesting.
to,
Your time over there has been very, I would say, packed of different exciting projects and adventures. That's
yeah,
excellent. So Elena, if we are to talk about core values, having that drive and enthusiasm and doing projects is one thing, but having that discipline and certain set of core values, that really I think helps us uh, to really accelerate our growth and our pace, I would say. So what are some of the core values that you really uphold in your life?
accountability, especially self accountability, is a big one. And then passion, right? Focusing
Mm-hmm.
on passion, not just doing things for the sake of checking boxes and putting things on your resume, but actually being
Yeah.
passionate about the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that I'm not interested in, even though it sounds like a really, really cool thing, if I'm not interested,
Yeah.
like being able to say no to those things, being firm in what you believe in,
Uh-huh.
um, good,
Excellent.
yeah, things like that.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. And of course, it's very important to do that introspection and self-reflection because that really gets us to be more authentic to ourselves. Other than that, in terms of your work life, how do you keep yourself up to date with the changing trends in technology or the business that you're working with right now?
So that one, actually, I feel like I have a unique situation there too. So the team that I work on at Verizon
Mm-hmm.
is the future tech R&D team. There's only 8 of us at the entire company who get to work on future technology and R&D for all
Uh-huh.
of Verizon. And
Okay.
it's our job to be up to date on all the new tech trends going on in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
any new technology that's going on, we research it, we read all these different papers, and we build different POCs and evaluate how they would be useful for Verizon. And that obviously
Yeah.
translates over because I'm getting that same knowledge and gaining that credibility in these different areas personally as well, right? What I learn at work doesn't just stay at work. I learn it for life, right?
Uh-huh.
So I get
Nice.
to I
Yeah.
get to do a lot of different cool things. I get to focus not only on data science at work, but I also get to work on quantum computing, specifically quantum machine learning. That's my focus area. So that has a lot to do with
Hmm.
like staying up to date on different trends, attending different conferences, watching talks and reading papers, writing my own paper, all of that fun stuff.
And on that thought, we close the conversation. Aleena, thank you so much once again for being here with us. And as far as our audience are concerned, show your support, do like, share, and subscribe. And until the next episode rolls out, take care of yourself and do check us out on other streaming platforms as well. This is your host, Usama, signing off, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.